On a cold, dank Seattle January Sunday, Lander Street Vintage is the place to be. The last time we were here was when a whole bunch of us refugees from Epic came in all at once. In the few months since then, this place has gone gangbusters. They had their best month in history, and I had my best month ever in an antique mall. They have very quickly become the place to go for antiques and vintage in Seattle. And yes, a lot of it is beautiful and decorative, but a lot of it is fun and collectible too. It's an amazing variety. Seattle is back and antiques and vintage are really doing great here. And there is Stephanie and our friend Bo, who has come with us today. Hello there, buddy. If you like mid-century colored glass, well, this case has a bunch of really fun things. Resin grapes in the candlestick form are really cool. Gotta love the owl. And of course we see Viking glass. I really like the Tiffin Franciscan glasses. I need to get mine in here. I have a bunch in the purple, which is a really good color. Made to go along with various shades and styles of Franciscan dinnerware in the 1970s. These Fenton Collector's Blue cats are a very unusual color for Fenton. And then look what somebody did. You know what? They didn't want just plain milk glass, so they painted all of the hobnails, and my goodness, what a lot of work, but it does make it really fun, and those pieces are common enough that somebody having fun with them is certainly a worthwhile project. The Viking, on the other hand, in the satin purple is really difficult to find. That's late 70s, early 80s, right near the end of their production. Also, this spring green, that's hard to find because that does fluoresce in a black light very strongly. And then, of course, swung vases. All sorts of shapes and styles and colors, including the difficult to find pink. Is going to assist us by giving everything the sniff test for a few minutes while we wait for Stephanie to come back. In the meantime, I'm going to try to show you my space if he doesn't pull us away. So I took a bunch of time the other day and redid my space, and I have to say I'm having a lot of fun with it. You'll see some things in my booth that you've seen on Thrift Battle, but they haven't really seen the light of day much since then because I've been waiting for the right place to sell them, and I think this is the place. I finally framed these original 1970 era blacklight posters, and I've got 3 of them in stock. This one here and this one over here, way down in the bottom. They're going to get some more light in this case. They're starting to switch over to LEDs. I thought this looked good with the little plastic Kartell table there from Italy. I'm trying to do some paper ephemera because they are having a paper ephemera show in a couple of weekends. And that's been a pretty good deal in the past. One of my very earliest videos was showing the very first one that happened over at Epic, and that tradition is carried on over here. Getting ready with the spring pastels in this case, and I wanted some whimsy and fun to draw people. All things that they can't really see from the edge, but get enough of a feel that it brings them into the booth. That's a Space Needle World's Fair original 1962 scarf there. I put a whole wall of ephemera in here. I've got a lot of Northwest subjects. I've got Sons of the Prophets, which is a great book on the early days of Seattle, before it was a respectable town. Alaska, a nice old history there. Cocktail book. A bunch of Boeing-related things as well. A bunch of things related to everything from the old Seattle Star newspaper, the ruler there, to pictures of Spokane, and World's Fair ephemera. So I think I've got some fun things to put out for that event. I added a pair of snowshoes, which are sold separately, but I brought the Northern Exposure set here because it has everything, including the wall rack, the coat, and the charcoal drawing of the actor who portrayed the mayor. I thought this would do better here than where I've had it because I think we're close enough to where they're propping for other shows. Who knows if there might be a revival coming? I just thought Seattle was the place to bring this. The staff here did a wonderful job keeping track of things and keeping things straight, and I had this really busy month, the busiest I've ever had in an antique mall, and they kept the space looking really good. They did this art wall for me, so then I was able to redecorate in front of it. I really appreciate all the help that they've done. I pulled this out where you could see it better. I think it was kind of lost where I had it. I replaced it with the psychedelic poster because you can't really miss that. But this gal, I thought she needed a little more space to breathe. She's just so cute, and that little chest that she's on. And then I love this Victorian brass piece. People are all caught up in brass right now, and that's a great old heavy piece from about 1900 with a real Art Nouveau flair to it. And I think that for folks who are collecting the 70s era brass, some of which is really great too. Looking back at historic brass could show you a whole world of things that you might not have contemplated that were in fact inspiration for some of the 70s brass. I've got my two phones here. This time of year you might get decorators shopping, but you might also get people propping things. There's a lot of filming that takes place in Seattle, especially in the wintertime, because it's a good indoor pursuit. Marc Chagall print here. This is the Phantom. I sold another pair of Phantom items already at this store. I actually brought in even more Sascha Brastoff. It does seem like it's selling again, and it seems like it's selling here. And I'm just starting to drop a hint or two about it being the 50th anniversary of the Spokane World's Fair. I put a few of my extra items out here, but I'm saving a bunch of them for the show in Spokane in April. This was partly a redo of things that were in place here, and addition of some other items. The seagulls are a more recent addition. I sold the other Jure piece, so I've just got this one left. And then this wonderful piece here. When someone comes in and has the right spot for that, that thing is going to fly out of here. I brought a nice piece of Baccarat with the original box because we do get a higher end clientele here. And the Dansk Classic Teak Ice Bucket is a fairly new addition. I literally just got this yesterday. That is Pacific Stoneware, signed by Bennett Welsh. I believe this one has the signature that you can read. Sometimes the glaze is too thick, but there is his signature, B. Welsh. He took an old stoneware company that made crockery, kept the crockery lines going so that the people who worked there forever could keep their jobs, and then used the ware to produce a whole bunch of really interesting modernist pieces in the early 1970s, right about the same time pottery craft was taking off in California. Pacific Stoneware was taking off here. They both did similar work in terms of sponge print and other things that were easy to replicate and gave a natural feel. A little different than the 1950s glam feel of Sascha Brastoff in this horse. This turned into my horse area because thanks to Miss Wildlife, who works at a friend and I guess erstwhile competitor of ours, well, they had an auction and this wonderful Dodge horse went for a very good price because it's big and it's heavy. You know, it's not the Gregorian copper from the 50s, it's actually the Dodge from the 40s, and that makes a difference in terms of collector interest. A little bit more Seattle World's Fair. I always thought these were really great. They are hollow stemmed. The idea was you pour champagne in them and the heat from your hands would make the bubbles rise faster. And so you do champagne cocktails and the like in them. I always thought that was a cute design, and I've got a pair of those. And then the screen print on the old jelly glass. So tried to put some fun things in here, tried to put some things of higher value, move some things out that I thought had been missed, like the wonderful Hager Earth Wrap candle pillar. I think I had it under where you couldn't really see its function, so it may have just looked like a vase or a sculpture. I also brought this from Centralia. I'd been casting it with a lot of Native American items, but I think that the mesquite chest may have a better chance going to a decorator in this area. And of course, as the 80s come back into style, we'll see Santa Fe style come into style again, and that might be what sells it. The big yellow Empoli ewer that I loved finally sold today, and I have to admit, without it, this display needed a little something, so we moved the yellow Pilgrim threaded glass and the wonderful piece of Seguso into its place. We've got the gold trim Murano there. So I think we've given it a different look, and I'll have more fresh stock coming here probably in about 6 weeks. So you folks in the Seattle area will come have fun, and then I will be able to restock with more. A whole bunch of Matthew Adams and Sascha Brastoff Alaska line here. I think most of my pieces are Sascha. Lots of fun things, cocktail gear, 70s striped pitcher, all the sorts of things that I figure will sell to this very cool hip urban audience. Now, while I'm doing a lot of small objects, some people are really doing decorative and interior displays. I think it's so clever the way they're using hooks to hang things. You definitely get the feel, well, it's the garden, but the garden's out of season, but we know it's coming back into season, so you can start preparing now, which is what a lot of people do, because once it's gardening season here, you know, you got to get right on it because the Northwest has somewhat limited sunny periods. English chimney pot, we see these a lot in the Midwest for sale. This is priced at $275 here. I've seen them as low as $100 wholesale in the Midwest. So this is the kind of place these architectural pieces go because there's a lot more new construction here. and people doing interior displays. Very sweet, nice decorator look. They've taken a lot of engravings and prints all the way back from Victorian times. These are 19th century, representing the four seasons. These are French. There's autumn and the spring. But then you have botanicals, small watercolors, and there's a very light feel to it, and yet it's very richly decorated. So this is another way that you can put together an antique space if you are in a more decorative marketplace, or that's your specialty, where it still looks like you'd have it in a home, but you can get in a lot in a small space. They've even made these Bristol vases, which I think are wonderful and underappreciated, look fantastic in this context. These are 120 years old and $59. It's amazing to me that Bristol glass is still as underappreciated as it is. Still love this tortoise hall stand, the bamboo. I just think that's the neatest thing, but I wanted to show you this mission oak desk as well. Nice piece for a craftsman home from around 1900. You'd have to have a smith replace that right handle, but there are people who do that sort of work. And here's another lovely tortoise bamboo shelf. This one has a small mirror in it. Hello, everybody. These are really fun. These go with a picture I have for sale in Florida. $12. Oh, I think I have to get these to go with it. That's a wonderful price anyway. $3 a piece for screen print from the 50s, and I have the picture, and yeah, that's going to be a fantastic little set. My friend Mary Lynn is starting to move in some stuff. I love the fiber optic lamp. I'm old enough to remember when those were new when I was a kid, and they are just the grooviest thing. $2.95 is a completely fair price and good condition. She's also got this really beautiful beaded purse. I just love those, and the design on that is very nice. That's going to be sometime right around 1920 when those first really start to be geometric like that. The Art Deco clock is very nice too. Very handsome little design by West Clock, priced at $55. Ooh, and Zsa Zsa never wore this pair of shoes. These slippers are wonderful. Night Airs in their original box, $39. I mean, you couldn't buy anything like that for $39 now. A 1960s era Snow White for $24. That's tempting. I'm headed to Florida. There might be money in that for me. Various Steiff figures. A nice jadeite salt and pepper. That's another McKee design with the rings there. You're getting a little different view of the store because I'm starting you from the back forward, because I am in the very, very back. And it's actually a great place to be because once people get back here, they have seen everything and they know what they want. So if I have something they want, they just take it, which is great. A lot of nice Waterford here. This is Castletown. This is a little different pattern than we see. We see a lot of the marquee now, but this one has some clear banding and then the diamond waffle in the middle. This is Alana, which is all waffle. I think that's rather attractive and could be modernist or traditional. And then here is Lismore. We see a lot of the Lismore pattern. That seems to have been a very popular pattern over the years. And you notice that prices are not inexpensive on these. We're seeing $32 and up per stem. There is starting to be interest in good quality maker-signed wet crystal again. I just bought a Swedish Dala horse that looks a lot like this, and unfortunately, I don't know if I got it packed to take to Florida with me, but I have a friend in Florida who's of Swedish extraction, as am I, and she loves this sort of work. This is Sluge, Sweden. Red holiday wear, as you see, made in Sweden. There's our mark on the bottom. These are going to date sometime to the 1970s. We see a lot of Swedish and Danish pieces in Seattle because there's a very large Scandinavian population here 100 years ago, and the Scandinavian district became quite a place to go to buy house items in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. Now this piece is made in Austria. It's the one that is a little bit different. It looks pretty similar to this Wachtersbach Christmas wear that was made in West Germany in the 1970s and 80s, which is also collectible now. I love all the color in this piece. It's interesting, I don't always find that these multicolored pieces sell as quickly because not everybody can figure out how to work them into their decor, but this one is really very pretty. There's a nice old Murano mark, so we know it's real. Notice it has actual wear on it like it should. It's not polished with a big dish polish that looks like satin glass. So that tells you really Murano. Very pretty piece. I like the satin glass that Tiffin did in the Amberina. This is going to be a 1930s vintage piece that they did in the Amberina treatment at a later time. I think this was actually done maybe in the 1950s as Amberina glass. Oh, John Waters, I have his signature. I met him at the premiere of Serial Mom in 1994 in Los Angeles. And I love this. This is John Waters presents Movies That Will Corrupt You. Another really cool art wall in here. And I really like that Gilbert Rohde settee. Great Art Deco designer, and to see a piece that actually is one of his designs and not just something that's a look-alike. Well, that tells you why this place does the phenomenal volume of sales that they do and why people come from all over the West Coast to see this place. These are Utita folding Italian chairs from the 1960s. A very clever design. They actually have the strength of a regular Italian chair of similar design from that time because of the way that they interlock when you do the opening. Priced at $450. Tom and I had an opportunity to help clean out and buy from the estate of William Hickson and his wife, who were famous artists and instructors at the University of Washington. Go Huskies. This is a wonderful hanging piece of his. He did a lot of bimorphic shapes. This one's dated 1969. It's priced at $5,000. There is not much from that estate left on the market. That got snapped up very quickly. The Warren Platner lounge chair is one of my favorite designs. I like anything that lets you sit with your arms out on a nice curved surface that's expansive, and I really enjoy the base of it. It just has such a modern feel. This is right out of the 1970s, great color. This one's priced at $4,800 because that is the original upholstery, and a lot of these have been redone at this point. J.B. Whitaker was known for portraiture and known well enough to be a listed artist, and portraiture is making a comeback. This piece with the wonderful frame was exhibited at the De Young in San Francisco at one point, and because of all of that provenance, it is priced at $3,800. She seemed very startled by the appearance of whoever saw her in this state. I'm glad the dealers here are very knowledgeable because there's so much to know about studio art glass. There's so many people, especially in the Northwest, thanks to the Pilchuck School, but really there's some great glass artists all over the country. A lot of this was done 30 years ago, and here are three I've never seen before. The tall piece in the blue herringbone is Mickey Cosa, called Reticolo. This Latticino is by Brian Rubino. And this particular piece, which I really like, both in color but also in the way that it's been, it appears sandblasted back to get the cameo design. This one is Laura Murdoch, who apparently was involved with William Morris. Kokeshi dolls are very cute. I first saw girls collecting these in the 1970s when I was little because a lot of us in Bremerton, Washington had parents who had been stationed in Japan. What I didn't realize until later is how the Japanese really love kokeshi, and they made them in all sizes and manner of decoration. So it is a very wide range of things to collect. And there are a couple of dealers who are originally from Japan in Seattle here who are now making a market in these. $58 on the set of these is a good price. These were given out at gas stations in Arizona in the 1960s, and they show various types of cactus. There was a lot of fascination amongst tourists with the various types of cactus in Arizona when people started really going there in earnest after the Second World War. Thanks to the advent of air conditioning, suddenly Arizona became a year-round place to go instead of just in January. Those vintage gals have the most vibrant space, and well, it's the holidays, so they seem to have a lot of knitwear in. And this first one that we see is 1960s cream color. A lot of these cute ski sweaters were Norwegian. And again, there's a large Scandinavian population here and a ski culture here, so there are still people looking for these sorts of things. Lots of really sweet patterns here. That's a wool cardigan. Age-appropriate housewares. Age-appropriate being that this is from my childhood and the childhood of people right behind me, like the My Little Pony lovers out there. 1970s hooked rugs. I remember when everybody's grandmother was making these, and then we didn't think much of them, and now I have one for sale in my space because they're actually really cute and fun. Kat the Nurse Flipper is making a fortune selling empty boxes right now, if they say. Hermes, and other important makers. This one's $25. That's actually a pretty good price. They do sell for more online. Another hanging, well, in this case they have hanging. It actually looks like it could set on a counter as well, but this is another pickled bamboo shelf. What fun Fiesta ware they have on there. The two little compotes are pretty hard to find. They've got the original yellow and the red orange that had the uranium in the glaze and thus was taken out of production in 1941. That's why it's the scarcest of the early colors. Well, this is a fun way to use some sort of a fish tank or a counter if you were missing a top or something. You just display other pieces in it. I have to say that the imagination and the ability to visualize and put disparate things together. That's one fun thing about going to a place like this, is that you get lots of inspiration for your own home, or if you're a dealer, your own space. Although you might have to step up for a really cool model plane to be able to pull that one off. Timo Sarpaneva is one of my favorite Finnish designers, and he did this for Iittala, the bowl in the center there. The smoky color is something that was very popular around 1980, and I'm looking for that to start coming back into style with all the gray interiors we have. The variable balance chair. This came out around 1983. It was designed to be ergonomic. You kneel forward a bit while you sit. It is so comfortable. I remember a friend of mine's uncle got one, and I was just in love with it. And you know what? I wouldn't mind getting one now. I still think they are so intelligent. It's surprising that perching on something like that is so comfortable to the back. It just puts you in the right position. And so it didn't just look cool, it actually felt cool. Designer is Peter Opswick. It's priced at $275, and I really appreciate the dealer being knowledgeable and being accurate. They correctly describe this as a pottery craft vase, which it is. It's shown in my book, in the style of Robert Maxwell, and that is exactly right. Robert Maxwell did come up with the overlapping glazes for them, and he formed a few of their shapes, and then he left over a disagreement. So he only was with them 3 months. They didn't make the stuff again for 2 more years, and when they pulled out the designs, they started making their own shapes. So he gets credit for part of it and does not want credit for all of it, because that's how design worked by the 70s. Things were pieced together by many designers. Cool Blanco vase from the 1980s on the right there. And these are all the books that I probably need to have in my reference book collection. So many books about the icons of design and modern designers, the homes of American designers. This is a great one here that I do have, The Future Remembered, which is about the Seattle World's Fair. But if you want to start learning about the people who were behind your favorite mid-century designs, these books are really indispensable and very interesting and full of great pictures, and will make you want to start looking for things that you never had seen before. Vintage clothing is doing well here. You can tell there's several spaces given over to it, and a little bit of representation in most spaces. There may even end up being a little bit in mine eventually. Curious to go back here, because this is the area that was piled to the ceiling with things coming in. Hello there. That is the lovely Trish, one of the wonderful people who works here. They have a really great crew. Knowledgeable and helpful. They also managed to help get this all into shape. These are really cool. They are from some sort of a carnival. Ah, this is a nice little glass counter case full of tin types and ambrotypes. Sarah Cimarol is actually still known to us. Well, that's neat. These are mainly portraiture, and while it's interesting to see the styles, like that hairstyle that came back about 20 years ago inexplicably from the Civil War, they also are more valuable if they are shown doing certain things. The woman in the spotted coat is a little better than the others because her coat is distinctive. If she was holding a book, that would make her educated, or an educator, that might make her more interesting. Sometimes the things they were given to pose with are indications of their status in life. A bunch of old watch cases here for $25 each. That's a really cool thing. These are 1930s, right about the time pocket watches stopped being so popular, but these would be so fantastic to make into lockets or steampunk items. That seems like a really good deal, honestly. Wow, they really wrestled those big stacks of furniture. If you go back to our previous video, you'll see furniture stacked all the way up past the heaters. And now you can even get in and walk under the wild Rainier, which we will do in a moment here. Look at that piece of lucite. Wow. Lasnikor is the signature on that one. I have not seen that particular design before. I like the little table here as well. There was a time I could buy this in Seattle and take it to the East Coast because they didn't know it here, but that time has passed. Sonola bathroom ware made by the Art Brass Company of New York. That is a great old merchant's cabinet. $15.50 is the price on that one. Look at this wonderful marble bust pieced with two different colors. That is very highly unusual. This should date to right about 1900. Interestingly, with marble, rarely do I see a signature or an attribution, and I don't see any on this one either. They have it priced at $4,500 just for the sheer beauty of it, and I can see why. She's amazing. There's a beautiful gilded Chinese cabinet, and it's a nice small size. It is still a little close quarters here. We have to take turns coming in and out. This lucite sculpture is Haziza. That is a name that I've seen from time to time. I think we first spotted that together when we were in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I believe that's the first time I was able to show you folks a piece of their lucite sculpture, but they were fairly prolific in the time. A lot of fun Italian painted ceramics here. This looks like it is a cover that comes off, and because it's this faience where it does chip, you really have to watch for that. But I like the fact that you can set this entire set inside and carry it to the table for service, and it's $36. 1980s table bases. I'm just telling you, you can see who saw it here first. Wow, this is so different back here than it was before. It's mainly turned into a vintage clothing area, and it seems to be really very nicely organized, and we still have a few piles of furniture, some seating and some lamps and some basics, but my goodness, this place has really come a long way. They got the paper ephemera in order too. This was a big mess you couldn't even get to. They've got thousands and thousands of postcards, and a lot of this will be spread out where you can see it better for the ephemera show coming soon. This is cut crystal by Saint Louis of France, and this is a company that made wonderful things, and we don't see as often in the United States. Very, very good quality. They have 225 on this set of 4. That's about $50 a stem, so that tells you this is definitely premium ware, both when it was new and now. We have some more Steiff critters here too. Definitely think the pony is awfully cute. Haven't seen that so much. And the Zicky the goat with the little horns. The lion is one of my favorites. That's a classic. And of course, everybody loves a dog. If you are a serious Vaseline glass collector, this bell from the Victorian era would actually ring your bell, because that handle is going to glow like crazy under black light. This dealer has some really pretty pieces. This Le Gras piece of cameo glass from France for $5.95 is very sweet. Later piece of cameo, it says around 1924, I believe that's correct. That's getting towards the end of the original cameo production era. Here's some runway jewelry for you. Larry Verba, the topaz set there. You'll see the VRBA signature on that tag. That's a Verba set also. That wonderful champagne and blue and the purple stones, that is just gorgeous. Another wonderful mesh purse. They really do have some truly amazing things here. And they're not all out of sight price-wise either. That encrusted bracelet on the top tier of the Fenton cake stand there on the left is $42. On the other hand, you're going to see some in there that are Diella and Lister and Florenza and other companies that are going to price higher. The Regency set there, the pin and earrings, is priced at $185. So there is something to be said about a name. And then if you like the carved bakelite, well, there's a mountain of it for you to look through down here. Look at the crab, too. And I very much like the necklaces. Another Larry Verba set. These big pieces made for runway are something that are very expensive new, and that's why you're seeing big prices on them now. I know some people think taxidermy is ghastly, but this is an armadillo, and in Texas it's very popular and fashionable for a while to make baskets and purses and other things out of armadillo. I love this hanging lamp. That would be really great lit, because all those shells would be just translucent enough to glow. $125, that would be fun down in Florida. Some neat koa wood and monkey pod made into various things in Hawaii. We have napkin holders and book slides and a perfume bottle here. This would come out. French chalkware Madonna and Child is very pretty on the right. That looks like something from the French Regency period, 1870s approximately, I would estimate. There's something very serene about seeing the figures as they're posed here, and the colors are very pretty. And I like the fabric. It's clipped to the back. It's a scarf, and it is Saint Cecilia. And since she's the patron saint of musicians, she is shown holding the harp. Plastic can be fantastic. These are melamine Prolon ware. Now, they're only $30 for the set of 7. On the other hand, we have this set of 12. These are Heller plates. Heller Maximo, designed by Massimo Vignelli, made in USA. That is something to pick up. They have $150 on this set with the plates. You saw that I have a Kartell stand in my section over there. I have it priced at $80 because the top's a little worn. It would be twice that much if it was in better shape. So don't overlook plastic just because it's plastic. There's a cool thing made out of plastic too, an astrolight, futuristic cities with light. I would have loved that as a kid. It's a good thing I never saw that. I would have bugged my parents till they were sick of it. And it's not just vintage and modernism here. This is true antique. This is by Adams. They have it priced at $180 for the set. Great yellow color, and it definitely looks like toile. And again, toile, black and white. We have a lot of gray interiors. I see toile coming into decorating, and I see yellow coming in as a color spot. So it could be a timely thing. This dealer actually has a lot of things that might seem more traditional, but again, it's how you show them. I mean, this makes me actually want a grape silver plate punch bowl. I need to have a big party to justify using it. That monster has the most amazing legs. Oh, wait, they belong to her. There are many varieties and even different color schemes of Indian tree. India tree, a very famous pattern. Colport did this version. This is early 20th century. I like the pastel colors. You also see it by other companies with orange tones. We just said goodbye to the Christmas season, but for next year, you could get ready in advance with this 1950 set of Dickens ware glasses. They are satin. I suspect that they bought the glasses from Libby and then did their own decoration, whoever they were. I'm not aware of who made this set, but you have Fagin and Mr. Micawber and David Copperfield, Tiny Tim, this jolly man here who is Mr. Pickwick in the background, Oliver Twist, and the Fat Boy. And the price on all of these Dickens characters are $65.50. So if you are into the literary world, this might be something you would enjoy using every day. I'm hearing more people saying that now that people are enjoying walls of brass, that some people like silver tone, and they are starting to buy silver plate because it's inexpensive, and you can let some of it tarnish and polish some, and some of it will have a coating if it's newer to keep it from tarnishing, so you'll get that kind of contrast. And all you have to do is leave it, and it's very sculptural. Cute little petroleum enamelware picture here. This is likely to be European, partly because of this sort of squarishness of the lettering, which seemed to be more of a European thing where it's stenciled but yet this art moderne style, but also because petroleum is what they tend to call it in England, and we would call it gasoline. Fenton Mandarin. In the book they said it was $125, and that is true. It will glow a little bit for the cadmium down where the color gradation is. $75 is a pretty fine price on that, really. And isn't she cute? She's a German powder jar. I bought the Japanese one when we were in Centralia. This one is marked with the ENR, which is Irfila mark. They were the importers here in America out of Philadelphia. $35 is not a bad price for her. Not quite cheap enough for me to buy for resale, but I got my resale piece yesterday. The interest in French design continued well into the 1920s in the United States, and that's about the period of time I would expect this to have been made, which means it's approaching true antiquedom. Wonderfully painted on the panels. Of course, this tradition went back a few centuries earlier than that. It's a nice curved front with that Bombay styling, and it is priced at $26.95. If you're in the Seattle area, stop by Lander Street Vintage. It is just an amazing store. People are just starting to get their new stock in for the new year. Time for takeout because I'm getting hungry and my friend and the dog had to go back to the car, so I'm going to take out and I will be seeing you folks soon. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.